That's the Tirconaill Tribune podcast with John McAteer, Eamon McFadden and Declan Kerr from a very sunny and heat-drenched Mulford. Everything's about the weather this week, isn't it?
Good to see the sunshine back anyway. Lifts the place.
Yeah.
It's dominating the news headlines as well, it seems.
Big time. Well, I suppose it has to really, because the beaches are going to be crowded. People are going to be out and about.
Peak summer.
People
Probably everywhere. Roads are busy. Good to see
last
it.
for a week.
Nah, it's given good enough to the weekend, I think.
Certainly up to
Hopefully it's given good enough over the weekend. I'm not too sure. Forecast, you just forget about them up here. We just enjoy it while we can, because it's wall-to-wall coverage, as you say there, Declan. Independent there, Ian O'Doherty, one of my favourite writers, he says the sun is finally here, so forget reality for a while and milk the heat for all it's worth.
That's it.
And there's a byline, I've said it before, but it's worth repeating. When the weather is good, Ireland transforms itself into a Mediterranean society. I wonder, Ian, do you mean that?
I don't know whether that's a wee bit stretched.
That's a bit stretched, all right. Anyway, we'll go back to reality, and the rental prices in Ireland have hit a new all-time high as supply plummets to its lowest ever level. What happened to all the houses that the government had promised us? Had they already built and occupied, or who has moved into them? Rental prices have hit an all-time high. There's Charlie Weston, the financial editor of The Independent, who's pretty good on these things. The supply is at its lowest level since daft.ie records began in 2016. The cost of accommodation shot up by 12.6% in the 3 months in June when compared to the same period last year. Donegal, in fact, the monthly rental, the average is 881, and that's up by 18.5% on a year ago. So there's a huge housing shortage. There's just 716 homes were available to rent on August the 1st, down by almost 2,500 this time last year.
Right.
There's some pressure on housing, isn't there?
Some, yeah. And you take into factor the Ukrainian scenario, properties taken off for Airbnb, all that all adds up to.
But there's an awful number of people now exiting the market. The private renters are getting out of it because the hassle that's involved with it, and all that goes with that. You know, the government has probably handled this thing very badly. But I mean, given that this is a crisis that's been with us, which this was the crisis that led to the property crash in 2008, 2010, it's been with us for 25 to 30 years. We can either build far, far too many houses and crash the market as we did back then, or else we have such extreme caution, and the big property developers are dominating the whole situation as they do. I mean, it is a market for the big developers at this point, and the government seems to be literally a bystander. They can create all kinds of legislation. We're reading there probably towards the end of last week into the beginning of this week here is that accommodation thought to be for the student sector is not now for them. It's not available to them because the legislation that created this didn't include last year. It wasn't retrospective, so I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of houses are in that. So this retail sector in the housing market seems to be always that year ahead of the government thinking on it. Owen O'Brien's pretty good on this. He's pretty damn good on it.
So that'll be another one coming down the line, the student accommodation.
Student accommodation is going to be hectic now.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just going to be fuel to the fire in that whole scenario.
But where can they go?
Sure, we know last year, from what we understand, they were going into B&Bs and staying, people travelling from outside the county, but staying in B&Bs and hotels and things way outside the area.
Well, students travelling from Sligo to driving from Sligo to Letterkenny and further.
We had one story last September, early October, of a student probably doing several days a week travelling from Dublin on the bus, on the express.
That's right.
There's something very far wrong. There's a huge scarcity of houses. There's a huge demand for houses. Yet the government seems to be paralysed in providing what would be regarded as affordable houses. They're all been priced off the market, and these giant high-tech companies from America and elsewhere, they're buying up so many houses for their staff. They're buying them up off the plans. And price isn't their biggest issue. But the government is not able to provide houses that are regarded as affordable. So where's the point in building them? They're going to be sort of taken up by half a dozen of very, very big developers.
Yeah.
And
the power they have is unbelievable then when you...
They have money. They have the kind of money. I don't want to name the 5 or 6 huge developers, but they dominate the housing market and they control it to a great extent.
Yeah, and they purchase a big swathes of land and all that high valued stuff. What's
going to interest me, if we're going to have a new government in a couple of years' time down the road, a new left-leaning government, what difference will that make? You know, should Owen Bryn be there as the minister in charge of housing? What effect can he bring to bear on the situation to alleviate the problem, and for the government to wrest back control of the market?
That's a very big challenge.
That's a big challenge. It's pretty hard one to sort of figure out at the moment. Anyway, we're going to look. Brother Kevin Crowley retires, Eamon, from he was here as guardian of our Ardwira.
Yeah, a big part of the community here for Grand Chrysler for a long, long time. Very popular man. Still highly regarded. Still had visited the area up until recently. I think the fact that you can see from the turnout that took place every year down the collections that were organised locally for him, it was a testament to really himself in many ways. I know it's a very worthy cause, but people came out in force to, you know, Father John Duffy and Martin Doohan and all them, you know, they all had collections in the different chapels, but at the heel of the hunt, I suppose, it's the legacy that Brother Kevin had from his short time here, but that's
a huge legacy.
Drop in the ocean compared to that legacy that he's built in Dublin, you know.
Yeah. It's a huge legacy. He was here from 94 to 2001, and he led the project to re-roof the chapel roof. Or did he complete that? I don't know.
That was completed as far as I know.
Yeah.
That was a massive fundraising drive. That took a long time and a big effort to do that.
But you know, to think that 53 years ago he founded that charity at Smithfield in Dublin, when he saw groups of homeless men eating out of refuse bins. And he has maintained that. It's costing several million a year through the generosity of the people, because every cent raised goes directly to the fund. Back there a couple of years ago, when there was a lot of concern about how much money we donate is actually going to the charity, Brother Kevin has made it quite clear that he's the chief executive officer of that charity, that Capuchin charity, and his salary for the year is zero. Every last penny, every last cent donated has always gone in there. It's probably running at about 4 million a year now to keep it up.
Sure, I think that it go from, I don't know what was the figure I've seen about it. It was 50 food packages per year. Now there's something like 800 doled out almost on a like kind of a regular basis, you know.
I think there's about 1,500 every Wednesday doled out. But there's 600 to 800 dinners a day, several hundred breakfasts. But then there's all this medical care,
personal care, hygiene care, laundry services, all these things.
Like it has branched out. It just shows you that the demand and the need is there, despite societal changes supposedly for the better. I mean, the amount of homelessness in Dublin City is absolutely critical. But he's been there leading that vanguard. He's 87 years of age, and he's going back to his native Inniskeen in West Cork. And Father John Joe has paid tribute to him there. And we wish him Godspeed.
87
and a happy retirement at 87.
We're
going to move on, and we're going to look at, we'll stay on a very religious theme, because St Michael's Church in Chrysler is celebrating a big event.
Yeah, Monday evening now.
Monday evening, the Feast of the
It's actually going to be the 51st anniversary of the chapel on Monday evening. But the whole celebration really was about that 50 years anniversary that they didn't get to have last year. The social distancing regulations just meant that you couldn't have any scalable, sizable event, which they would have liked to have had at the time. Things weren't there at that point. The restrictions were still in place, and the numbers and all that. But fair play, they've kept it on the agenda since, and that is going to take place now on the 51st anniversary, which actually falls on Monday evening, which I understand is at the Feast of the Assumption now.
The Feast of the Assumption.
And Bishop Alan McGuckian is going to come down, Bishop Philip Boyce is going to be there, retired Bishop of Rafo, and the local clergy, and that will give them an opportunity to mark the occasion. As I said, it was something that didn't get done. The church was designed by Liam McCormick and in the shape of Muckish, or inspired by the theme of Muckish. So it's very one of the, I suppose, most kind of iconic churches.
It has been undergoing some repairs.
Major repairs too, John. It was just in the third or fourth day of this year into the new year. It was very badly damaged by storm force winds that hammered through the place and lifted the whole section of the roof off and came clattering down. Thankfully, it didn't avoid it.
A lot of glass there in that section of it.
Phenomenal amount of glass.
Phenomenal amount of glass. It's unbelievable.
Down from a big roof cavity. But the work is ongoing now. It's not there yet, but it's certainly getting there.
But it is a very original design concept. You know that it is the shape of Muckish. As you drive past it, you sort of realise that both of them are in symmetry. They're almost synchronised. You know,
the level of detail inside of it,
catches your eye.
It catches your eye, and you know the amount of people that stop in Creasley just to go and have a look at the church. Even was there one day recently, and a group from Northern Ireland pulled up, and a group of men got out of the car, and they heard him going, "That's one of the McCormick churches. Do you want to go into it?" And they went in, and I think that happens regularly, you know. And it's just it's truly unique, you know. Like McCormick's now kind of cemented his place, you know, as kind of the godfather of kind of ecclesiastical architecture in that modern sense, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so
it has an iconic structure down there.
We are going to go to something different again, and Declan, you have a story there that you wrote about Noel McBride, former councillor Noel McBride.
Yes.
And his 30 years of service in the Sheephaven
Credit Union. He was there from day one, and he just stepped down there Saturday week past after 30 years on the board of directors. Not going away completely, but he'd be there in an advisory capacity. But it was back in the early 90s that Noel was one of the people that had the dream of setting up a credit union, and he was the man that made the first call to the Irish League of Credit Unions in relation to how you would set it up and that sort of stuff. And from there it has grown. It is 30 years later, it is now 4,300 members, and it has a book value of 23.5 million. So, I mean, it has made a huge contribution, not alone just to the Carrigart, Cranford area, but over in Creaseland.
The two centres are amazing.
Two big, and a beautiful new office there in Carrigart, and also they have the office over in Creaseland. So,
a big membership.
A huge membership.
A huge role in the community,
It is, you know, it has been such a help to so many people over those 3 decades, and Noel certainly can look back with immense pride at what has developed from, as I say, from humble beginnings.
For sure.
Yeah. We'll go back to Creaseland and take a look at the new events to honour Red Hugh. Tell us about that, Damon, because you've been talking to Brendan Brohan.
Brendan's been championing this trail to discover the remains of the famous Donegal chieftain Red Hugh O'Donnell, who is died in Spain. But his 420th anniversary of his death is due to take place now in September, and to mark the occasion they're trying to organise a sequence of events to take place in Spain. They're going to start on September, and then around the start of September. So Brendan has been working with a group from the Irish Hiberno Association over in Spain, and they're kind of pioneering all of this. And I think what it is to try and keep the pressure on to try and locate the remains of Red Hugh. They know where he died. They know the general area where he's supposed to be buried. There was an unsuccessful dig either last year or the year before, which Brendan attended in the city of Valladolid, if I can pronounce that.
Valladolid, northern Spain.
And that's an ongoing thing. But that's the 420th anniversary of his death coming up. The 450th anniversary of his birthday will take place in October, and they also have events planned for here in Donegal at that time. I'm sure we'll hear more about that, but it seems they're running a fundraising campaign to try and support this work now at the minute. So they're part of the Red Hugh O'Donnell 420 group on GoFundMe. So if anyone wants to check them out, they can make a donation there. That'll all go towards helping the cost of run it. The group themselves are all volunteers and cover their own costs, but this is just to cover the external bits and pieces of. They're going to have a very grand, stylish parade, I think, through the Spanish city. That's going to be all and sundry are going to be there, and
that's
local authorities.
Sunday the 12th of September, and then we have an event coming up in Donegal later on.
And that's planned for October. It's going to be to mark the 450th birthday of Red Hugh O'Donnell. So very much trying to keep the spirit of all that, or Irua as Brendan was maintaining. That's what he's been advised to call it to, as it would have been during his time as well. But Red Hugh is on his way to Rome to basically enlist help to support the fight for Irish independence from the
Oh,
British,
yeah.
and that's where he died in there en route before he got there. So yeah, it's an interesting one. People can find out more about that on that.
We're going to come back to the locality here. The Dohertys came home. This is the Dohertys of Gorton the Brothers. Beautiful page on that.
Yeah, big
Fantastic photography there by Martin Fleming.
and a big reunion for the family in Logs of Cranford, and families travelled from various parts of the globe, Glasgow to London
These
to
would be the
Australia.
relics now, or Pat
Patrick and-
Doherty, Pat Doherty, the former
Yeah, yeah.
MLA and MP.
Yeah.
It is that family circle, you know.
And they settled in Gorton.
Big history of emigration there.
Yeah.
Back those years ago.
Gorton Brad, and then some of them headed off to Philadelphia. I see here Dennis and Woolley emigrated in 1922, and I suppose that's 100 years on. There's it's an anniversary of that, and I think 65 members of that family came home from Philadelphia area for it. So it was a nice reunion, and
There's a brilliant group picture there on the page. Actually, is worth seeing.
It is one of the
It's
most
huge.
breathtaking ones that I've seen.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely,
just
very well done.
Looking at the actual page over in the printing department, it's a very stunning picture. As I said, fair play to Martin Fleming. That's a big group of people to organise into one picture indoors.
and a great work by the Doherty family to pull it all together, and it's great to see.
Hugh
that.
Doherty, who's a pretty good painter, and he's a beautiful picture there, just up there on the top right hand side. This is the old homestead.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
it's an absolutely stunning work of art,
The
really.
horse outside.
And the horse outside.
Oh, aye, very good.
Very traditional, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah,
Something very emotive about that type of picture.
yeah,
It's just, it captures a bygone age.
yeah.
It captured the era of huge migration from Ireland shores. But we're going to move from that to farming. We haven't talked about farming an awful lot. We're trying to come to terms with the farm emissions and how that's going to be handled. Now, we've talked to Malcolm Thompson. Malcolm's never short of a few words of common sense. And he simply says, farm emission cuts don't make common sense. That is the view of Malcolm Thompson, former president of the ICSA and a well-known, respected farmer in the county. And he told this week's Tribune that the plan to impose a 25% cut in carbon emissions on the sector will only work when the government imposes a summary ban on consumption. Can you just prepare yourself for thinking about cut your food intake by 25% from next week?
Sure, plenty that
But
could
anyway,
and should.
he says otherwise, he says none of this makes any sense and it cannot be achieved. But then again, this was a deal to save the government and had nothing much to do with saving the planet. And he says that the reality is that cuts will certainly be achieved if consumption is reduced. But nobody believes that will happen because there will be holy war. And then he suggests that, in fact, my belief is that nobody in government believes that any of these cuts will happen. He suggests, so it's an interesting story, it's an interesting week in the paper. It's time to go out and enjoy some of the sunshine. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.